The first dry race of the 2025 season left no team or driver anywhere to hide, and clearly some are in better shape than others. McLaren's 1-2 finish, Liam Lawson's Red Bull qualifying streak, Hamilton's sprint win, and Ferrari's double disqualification are a part of many interesting things that happened during last weekend's Chinese Grand Prix. So from the best the weekend had to offer to car strengths and weaknesses, team issues and driver mistakes, here's everything we learned from Formula One's Chinese Grand Prix. For the first time in Formula One history, both Ferrari cars were disqualified from the Chinese GP's official classification, following FIA scrutineers finding out both Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton's cars having breached different technical regulations. Leclerc was referred to the stewards when the FIA's F1 technical delegate, Joe Bauer, found his Ferrari to be 1 kilogram under the 800 kilogram weight limit, accounting for a required 2-litre fuel sample. This was nothing to do with Leclerc's front wing damage that Ferrari did not replace during the race, as teams are required to repair damage before being weighed, and the spare front wing it fitted was actually 0.2 kilograms heavier than the original anyway. Hamilton was referred to the stewards for excessive plank wear, as his car was measured and excessive wear of 0.4mm and 0.5mm on either side of the peak was found, and the stewards elected to disqualify him shortly after Leclerc. Really fine margins, not to the extent where it was massively performance enhancing, as the end result for Ferrari wouldn't suggest, but incredibly costly misjudgments by the team. A similar incident happened at the season opening Australian Grand Prix, where the team chose a particular setup direction and lost performance as the weekend progressed. Here they lost performance after the sprint, where they made some setup changes and their cars were deemed illegal. Fred Vasseur came into the Chinese GP weekend dismissing one rumour from Melbourne that suggested one of the reasons the Ferrari's pace fell away at Albert Park was due to the team raising the car's ride height after witnessing excessive plank wear during practice. A similar thing has happened at Shanghai, and this seems to be a legitimate concern for Ferrari. Maybe that's a bit of a hint as to how Ferrari is running the SF25 and what they're trying to do to get the performance out of the car. We did see a better version of the Ferrari in Shanghai during the sprint, where Hamilton took both pole and the sprint win. The race pace over the 19-lap sprint was mega. Both Hamilton and Leclerc had strong pace towards the end of the sprint in particular. It might be the setup changes made post-sprint that probably caused Hamilton's car plank to wear out more than it is allowed by the technical regulations. They probably might have lowered Hamilton's car a bit more, but whatever they did just took the SF25 out of its comfort zone, and the end result was bitter. Hamilton was slower than Charles, who ran a damaged front wing for the entire Grand Prix, hinting at whatever Ferrari changed made the front stronger and the rear loose. Hamilton with that setup was struggling with all wheels sliding, just not having any front or rear type grip. Knocking off the end plate actually might have helped Leclerc to take some front downforce out to really balance the car out. Probably explains why he had better pace than Lewis. Proves that the SF25 has a very marginal operating window, and Ferrari has to put all its effort in widening it before adding any more performance. But overall, a much better weekend for Ferrari in terms of absolute potential. They have a lot to analyse before the Japanese GP, to find out why both cars did not comply with the regulations and to figure out the preferable operating window of the SF25 as well. Liam Lawson has been gaining headlines recently, but for all the wrong reasons. Finding positives in Lawson's start to life as a Red Bull driver has been a real clutching at straws exercise, especially when he fails to get out of Q1 in his first 3 qualifying sessions. Due to Lawson's lack of impact, Red Bull is aware that it must decide how to go, with a number of possibilities reportedly being considered. One option is to choose to stay with Lawson for the upcoming race in Japan and see whether his familiarity with the circuit enables him to demonstrate his strengths more. However, given the circumstance that is eroding the New Zealander's confidence, Red Bull may decide that it is best to make a change right away. The squad may make this decision because they believe that trading Lawson for Yuki Tsunoda of Racing Bulls would ease the strain on him before it got out of control. If Tsunoda is overlooked by Red Bull once more, is Racing Bull's teammate Isaac Hadjar or other drivers hoping to return to the grid but without a 2025 racing seat could be options. A saving grace for Lawson at this point in time could potentially be his teammate Max Verstappen, who at China revealed that the Red Bull car is very tricky to drive. And he went as far to say that the Racing Bulls car would be much easier to drive than the RB21 is right now. Speaking of, Red Bull have a huge project on their hands to improve the performance of the RB21, especially the car's drivability and working window. It has been damage limitation for Verstappen at Australia and China, and both himself and Red Bull would be hoping to turn things around quickly to be a factor in both championships this season. Oscar Piastri's third Grand Prix victory might just be the bedrock of his first championship challenge if he's able to repeat these kind of weekends. Over the course of the weekend, Piastri maintained a unique advantage over Lando Norris in both race pace and one-lap pace, which ultimately led to his collapse back in 2024. It's a fantastic validation for McLaren locking him down during pre-season testing with a multi-year contract and the ideal recovery after his Melbourne Sunday nightmare. Lando Norris, following a disaster sprint, was able to turn things around for Sunday's Grand Prix, as he secured P2, bringing home his McLaren, which suffered from braking issues around the latter stages of the Grand Prix. Overall, McLaren confirmed its pre-season status as pace setters, leading the likes of Mercedes, Red Bull and Ferrari in the competitive order. Despite the car being fast, both drivers have complained a lot about how difficult of a car the MCL39 is to drive, which was confirmed by team principal Andrea Stella after the race at Shanghai. This is making life difficult for both drivers, but it's more a penalty for Norris at the moment, given how many mistakes he is making compared to teammate Piastri. So McLaren have a lot of work to do to improve the car's consistency and drivability to boost the driver's confidence, which would be a key performance factor as the current season progresses. Haas returned to being the reliable upper midfield points challenger in China that we all know it to be after a terrible Australian Grand Prix, in which the car was so far off the pace that the team feared it could be broken. Some post-race luck as a result of the disqualifications of Hamilton, Leclerc and Gasly further rewarded Haas for its efforts. This does not imply that the fundamental issues of aerodynamic inconsistency related to ride height sensitivity within the 2025 Haas car are not still present. The new extremely smooth Shanghai track surface allowed Haas to run its new car in a much better setup window than was available on the bumpier, street-style surface of Melbourne, which explains the Haas car's pace at China, although it appears to be an amazing turnaround in performance from Haas. Given how sensitive that car's aero map appears to be, there will still be doubts about how repeatable this result is in coming races like Bahrain and Miami. Mercedes showcased remarkable performance around the Shanghai International Circuit, especially in the hands of George Russell, who secured a podium behind the McLarens. Given where the W16 stands in terms of performance, George did everything perfectly to place his car between the McLarens during qualifying, and used it as an advantage to transform his race result. Kimi Antonelli, on the other hand, had a mediocre race, started 8th and finished 8th. It was after the race that we got to know he suffered from floor damage after collecting debris from Leclerc's damaged end plate, which easily explains his sturdy pace. The Mercedes W16 seems to be a consistent car compared to McLaren and Ferrari. Compared to the Red Bull, it seems to be more driver-friendly. It's letting Russell have a crack at banking on good points while it is allowing Antonelli to have a gentle introduction. Overall, Mercedes are doing everything it can and are rewarded with good points, sitting nicely in P2 in the Constructors' Championship. Williams are clearly leading the midfield runner, both in terms of car performance and team strategy. While Racing Bulls at times seem to have the edge in performance, poor decision-making hands this belt to Williams. China was a real good example, which showcased Williams' strength, and considering this is a B-spec car to the 2024 Williams, I'm really surprised and I'm excited to see how the team progresses in 2025.